Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. It's a bright and dry morning here in the Federal Capital City. I am Sunday Michael Ogu, and let me be the first to wish you a happy new month. Welcome to the Ember Month, by the way.
Happy new month indeed. It is a beautiful Thursday morning right here in the nation's capital, and well, the year is gradually winding down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When it gets to the Ember Month, you just know that you are counting days.
Exactly, to the end of the year.
Everything feels like just one month, October, November, December.
Yeah, that's how it actually feels. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV.
Yeah, and I think it's that time of the year, again, where people begin to take stocks. It's that time to evaluate what has happened to those plans you made in January. If you have not made good on most of the promises, especially those ones that do not require external influences, it's time to take stock, look back, look at what you can do with the next 4 months.
If you can.
If you can.
Exactly.
All things being equal,
Exactly.
and see what progress you can make. 4 months is still a long time to push.
But seriously, if you couldn't do anything from January to September...
You are probably distracted. Or maybe you were affected by the Russia-Ukraine war. We wish all of us the best of the month, as most of our friends will say over the social media. September, be kind. We move on straight to the highlight of our stories this morning. 2 mothers, 5 children die after eating breakfast in Sokoto.
And to politics, those calling for my resignation are kids, Ayu Bombs Wiki.
Airline operators Lepride Inca deny converting 19 billion loans to personal use.
All right, now for the details. 2 mothers and 5 children have died after eating breakfast in Sokoto State. The incident occurred in Kaura village in Yabo local government area of the state. The head of the family, Malan Dambala, told Daily Trust that he lost his 2 wives and 5 children to the incident. According to him, the problem started when one of his wives cooked a local delicacy called dambu for their breakfast. An eyewitness said the wife initially cooked the meal for their dinner on Sunday, which she shared with neighbors. It was said that the remnants of the food was kept for their breakfast, and on Monday morning, she mixed the remnants with raw dambu reportedly left uncovered throughout the night. She was said to have cooked the delicacy and served only to members of the family.
What a tragic development there from Sokoto. And moving on, the People Democratic Party National Chairman Iyocha Ayu has said all those calling for his resignation are children that are not around when the party was formed. Speaking in an interview with BBC Hausa Service, Ayu added that he was not bothered by the call for his resignation. The camp of Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State has given Ayu's resignation as one of the conditions that has to be fulfilled to resolve the post-presidential primary crisis rocking the opposition party. Wike's supporters have argued that it is unfair for the party's chairman and its presidential flag bearers to hail from the same region of the country. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar had defeated Wike in the presidential primaries of the party. Although Atiku was asked to consider Wike as running mate, he had settled for Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta, to the dismay of Rivers State Governor and his supporters.
Meanwhile, indigenous airlines under the aegis of Airline Operators of Nigeria, AON, have replied to the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, over allegations that they converted over 19 billion naira to personal use. Vice President of AON, Barrister Alan Onyema, in a statement said while some of their members have bad debts being owed the agencies, not all members are owing. It also prevailed on some of his members owing the agencies to engage with them and come up with repayment plans. The NCAA had on Tuesday threatened to ground airlines over inability of airline operators to remit the statutory ticket sale charge, cargo sale charge, and passenger service charge.
And that's the wrap on our news highlight this morning. Moving on to reports. More than 24 hours since the Kano building tragedy, traders and rescued victims of the Kano incident are expressing concern over the slow pace of the ongoing rescue operations. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that government authorities are hoping that there will be no more victims inside the rubbles that has so far killed 3 and injured 6.
Fear, anger, end anxiety as some traders and rescued victims of the collapsed building in Beirut Road, Kano, begins to express concern over the slow progress in the rescue operations.
The situation is disturbing because we believe there are still people inside and work is moving too slow.
But the Kano State Emergency Management Agency assures that there is no cause for alarm because as per the agency's analysis, there might not be any other person trapped in the building.
Yeah, we are here yesterday night after around 11 o'clock when we confirmed from the leadership of the Traders Association here in Beirut Road that so far what we have rescued, about 8 of them, they don't expect there's anybody again. So this is why we raised our case to this morning when we continue with the clearance of the site. So we are now clearing outside, as you can see. This does not mean we will not go check again and see whether there's any leftover of the casualties.
So far, 3 people have died here, including an electricity worker who was electrocuted while disconnecting some cables around the markets.
Only one as of yesterday, I don't know of today. Only one. In fact, the rest, there are some of them who were even discharged yesterday. But the medical director is the one to confirm whether or not they are still in the hospital.
For now, a total of 8 people have been recovered from this building, while investigation to ascertain the possible causes of the building collapse commenced by the state government authorities. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Meanwhile, police operatives in Katsina have busted an armed robbery syndicate, arresting 19 persons and recovered 13 vehicles in the process. The suspected armed robbers, who are said to have specialized in terrorizing residents, were arrested in Modoji area in Katsina metropolis. Abdullahi Yamadi reports.
The police command is happy with this arrest for 2 reasons. The first is because the residents of Katsina City have been having sleepless nights, all because of the nefarious acts of the suspected armed robbers. The command is also saying the suspects have been giving the police a serious headache as they constantly changed tactics from housebreaking to car snatching to armed robbery.
Residents, especially of the Katsina metropolitan area, were to be careful with the activities of a syndicate that specializes in housebreaking, armed robbery and theft of motor vehicles. The command did not rest on its oars, but launched a manhunt for the daredevil criminals, and to God be the glory, it has succeeded in cracking down the syndicate terrorizing the state.
Several dangerous weapons were recovered from the suspect during the arrest.
The syndicate broke and attacked residents of the Nura Lawal M of Modoji Quarters, GRA Katsina, with a gun and other weapons, robbed him of his motor vehicle, Toyota Corolla LE 2010 model, with registration number ABJ 836HC, hash in color, value 3,500,000.
Amid incessant terrorist attacks, which have devastated most parts of Katsina State, the police, based on credible intelligence, have also cracked down on a terrorist syndicate alongside their informants and other collaborators. Honestly, I regret my actions. I have been in this terrorism, kidnapping, cattle wrestling for over 3 years now. I have never seen a bad day like this. I regret it. We are too many on our group, and of course we used master key to steal vehicles, and it is very simple using a master key. We used to sell our vehicles in Kano, Bauchi and other places. But today, we are in trouble. The police is, however, saying the success is being recorded in the fight against terrorism, armed robbery, and other criminalities are successful because of the support the command is enjoying from the public. Abdullahi Ismail Ahmadi, Trust Television News, Kaduna.
And still staying with security matters there, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, the NSCDC, has arrested a 27-year-old fake soldier in Gombe State. Parading the suspect, the NSCDC said Suleiman Rabiu, who has been parading himself as a military officer for the past 2 years, will be charged to court. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
The 27-year-old Suleiman Rabiu is also being accused of torturing helpless civilians in Gombe metropolis. Speaking to newsmen, the suspected impersonator confessed to the crime.
I used to parade myself as a soldier everywhere. I told an officer that I was an army officer. I later retracted, but he investigated and confirmed I am an imposter.
The Gombe State Commandant of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, said the suspected army imposter was arrested following an intelligence report.
The other second one is, you see, he's wearing fika for the military, a military uniform, parading himself as a military officer. And time without numbers, they bring complaints to him, to us, and then after we arrested him. We do all our utmost, strength in order to bring sanity to this state, and then do all our possible, possibility, so that we'll now do and then abort crimes and then criminality in the state, so that people will sleep with their eyes closed.
The NSCDC also paraded some suspected vandals of telecom masts and internet fraudsters. The command said all the suspects will be arraigned in court for trial. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
Now, experts have described street hawking by minors as a vivid picture of child neglect and exploitation by parents and agents who push young children into what has for them become a business for not only survival but for material gains. Now, in this report, Trust TV's Kabir Lawal takes a look at the street hawking, especially between the age group of 8 and 15 in the Federal Capital Territory. The report.
The phenomenon of street hawking has considerably increased throughout the world and most especially in Nigeria. Every year, billions of individuals, mostly female, are forced to submit to servitude. In urban cities where the business is commonly believed to be poverty-motivated thrives, children and women, who are the major role players, face different risks, especially rape, accident, ritual activities, as well as loss of education opportunities. However, parents have been cautioned to desist from sending their ward street hawking, as it is against the Child Rights Act, which has been domesticated in more than 30 states of the Federation.
The economic situation is really dwindling and is going down, and which is also contributing to making a lot of parents send their kids out on the street. But I would say on the part of the government, they really have a major role to play because they are the guardian of these children. If we have better laws in place that protects the Child Act and that has strict punishments to those who default these laws, I believe it can go a long way to curbing this issue.
However, parents decree the lack of employment and economic hardship as some of the reasons why they indulge their wards in street hawking to be able to put food on the table. They made desperate plea to government to regulate the rising inflation currently in the country.
Kids should be in school. They shouldn't be seen hawking at about this time of the day. Even if they have to do it, it shouldn't be during school hours. Yeah, I understand this is summer, but I mean, the government should do something about it. Ensure kids go to school.
I think being government now develop interest in this Nigerians individual and creating job opportunity. All this one will not continue.
Government is at the center of it all because without the government, there's nothing the masses can do. Without a strong law in place, there's nothing that can be done. And then you see some children who are on the street. Some of them don't even have parents. How are such children supposed to survive? I feel like the government should make provision, maybe in its budget, that caters for such kids.
Some of the underage children that spoke to our correspondent said the economic situation of the country has made them come out to sell things on street, adding that most of the time their teachers are not available in the school. My parents are not here, but I stay with my uncle, and he has been of help to me. Most time our teachers in the village are not there when we're in school, which made it very difficult for us to learn. My parents are not rich. We have to keep food on the table for ourselves, and I have no option than to arm out and help my parents despite the economic situation. Street hawking is a universal phenomenon which requires urgent attention from all and sundry, as it distorts child's development and government policies. Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And moving on to other things, as the world evolves away from the use of fossil fuel, in line with the Paris Conference Agreement, the Director General of the Nigerian Automotive Design and Development Council, Jelani Aliyu, says electric vehicles will help to further foster an eco-friendly environment in the country. He further added that these vehicles are now easy to use and technologically friendly, especially for young people. Christiana Modu brings us the details.
The Director General of the National Automotive Design and Development Council, Jelani Aliyu, has said that electric vehicles will help the country benefit from the gains of renewable and sustainable energy. He added that the innovation will help to foster an eco-friendly environment. Aliyu disclosed this during a test drive session of the first assembled electric vehicle at the headquarters of Media Trust Limited in Abuja.
This is a significant milestone because it shows that Nigeria as a nation is committed to environmental protection. It will also allow us, like I mentioned earlier, meet the targets of the Paris Accord. It will also spur and expedite technology transfer. It looks advanced. Yes, it is advanced, but it's actually a whole lot simpler technology than a petrol or diesel powered vehicle. This would allow young Nigerians, the youth most especially, to really understand this technology and even come up with new solutions that would be even more advanced and more applicable for Nigeria and Africa.
The first locally assembled electric car was first launched in November 2020 by the Lagos State Governor. The electric car was regarded in the European motoring industry as the world's #1, and it cost 24 million naira. It is imperative to know that the material used to assemble the 100% electric and zero-emission car was mostly sourced locally. Christiana Amodu Otiya, Trust TV News.
Interesting developments indeed. Well, someone says, when you don't have steady electricity, where do you charge the vehicle?
You probably have to move around with your better pass maneuver, which in turn depends on the fossil fuels.
Exact situation, exactly.
You just be going around in circles, yeah?
Well, we hope things get better so that we can actually move to an eco-friendly environment. Well, we're still Daybreak on Trust TV. We'll take a short break right now, and when we return, we'll take a look at the front pages of the newspapers this morning. Do stay with us.
a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak on Trust TV, and right now we're going to take a look at the front pages of the newspapers and see what's going on. Usually, we're going to start with Daily Trust, and it carries this major headline on the front page. High cost of living takes toll on Nigerians, and it comes with riders. Inflation, food prices rise by over 4% in 7 months. And some experts have actually offered how to arrest the situation. Next, we'll look at rescue worker electrocuted, another dies in Kano building collapse. Details of that on page 6. Customers groan under banks' downtime on e-transactions, and that's on page 19. Civil servants more corrupt than politicians, and that is attributed to the Senate committee. And details of that on page 5. At the bottom of the page there, flood, 15 bodies recovered in Maiduguri River. That is quite unfortunate, and details of that can be found on page 26. Towards the top of the page, below the masthead, PDP crisis, Ayu Slams Wike says, I won't step down as chair. For details of that, on page 24. And how I resolved ASU strike in 1 day, says Jonathan. And I think the present administration should borrow a leaf from that and see how that could actually be achieved. 2023 borrowing plan, FG may drive Nigeria's debt to highest ever. Details of that can be found on page 21. Well, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
And moving on to the Daily Sun. Somebody would say you can't do without the sun, yeah? The major headline there, it's still staying with the political developments in the country. Ayu, wicked trade wars. Those calling for my resignation are kids, says the PDP chair. Nobody can threaten us. This is according to the Rivers State governor. You'll find there also a picture of Governor Nyesom Wike. He has been appearing very trendy the last couple of days with fashion style trailing the governor, who also seem to now have what the musicians have usually on stage, a hype man wherever he speaks. He's standing there with easily to recognize the governor of Abia State among other members of his team. And we have other headlines there. Buhari to autumn. I never ordered security agents not to touch Fulani killers headman. And this headsman. This is on page 3. Governors, SGF, Kalu hailed Bishop Kuka at 70. You'll find the details of that on page 8. And just beside the name marks, you have resolve ASU strike now. Obi tells FG. How I settle 4-month crisis, Jonathan. Nance accuses lecturers of plots to destroy public varsities. And we have a belt there beneath the nameplate. APC wouldn't get 25% in most states, and this is coming from the PDP. Other headlines on the front pages. Atiku, Tamboa, PDP challenges Wike's case. Hearing fixed for September 14th. You'll find the details of that on page 6. Energy transition plan. VP departs for US to meet Kamala Harris. World Bank Group, others. You'll find the details of that on page 8. Emirate reinstate flight operation to Lagos. This must be good news. You find the details of that on page 26. Nigeria's oil revenue down to 28%, down 28% to 799 billion in Q1 2022, and this is coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria. And finally, we have INEC warns election observers against late application. You'll find the details of that on page 6. These are the major headlines on the front page of Daily Sun.
This Day newspaper, and it carries this headline on the front page. It carries a special report, actually, and it says, with 177 days to presidential poll, race still too close to call. And this day defines path to victory for Atiku, Tinubu, and Obi. And there's a breakdown of the analysis of those different paths for the different candidates there on the front page of the This Day newspaper. Those calling for my sacking are children. And riders here say why chairman's exit won't solve alleged marginalization as party constitution mandates northern takeover. PDP National Working Committee in marathon meeting over NEC National Caucus. Autumn speaks on relationship with Wike, says he's a good friend. Still talking about headlines on the front page of This Day. On the top of the page there, at Kuka's birthday celebration, Jonathan urges Nigerians to be vigilant to save democracy. And here's and riders here that says, you're selfless, honest, courageous. That's Northern governors tell Sokoto Bishop. Tinubu Fayemi Tambol Dogara celebrate cleric. Okada ban defaulting riders, passengers risk 3 years imprisonment, Lagos warns. Details of that can be found on page 41. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of This Day newspaper this morning.
Moving on quickly to The Guardian. And in keeping with the Guardian headline is similar to some of those we have read this morning. I won't step down. IU speaks as PDP crisis get messier. Those calling for my resignation are children. Court adjourns Wike's suit against Atiku. PDP to September 14. Obi didn't strike deal with Atiku, says Okukwe. On mockery, Adeaju slammed Tinubu over visit to Jonathan. Tinubu's visit shows no ideological difference on politics, says Farumbi. And you'll find here the picture of Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, the Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, there with the former President Goodluck Jonathan at the event of his 70th birthday and the fundraising for the Kuka Leadership Center. We also have other headlines there on The Guardian. Be vigilant, Nigerians sliding into dictatorship, Jonathan warns. Akeredolu orders knock FG over pipeline protection contracts to individuals. And other stories there. Oshibajo lead energy mission to U.S. meet Kamala Harris, World Bank Group. Report exposes how multinational tobacco companies aid illicit financial flows in Nigeria. Others. You'll find this on page 3. Gafaru, Lagos Street, burdened by erosion. This is on the Metro page of The Guardian, and you'll find that on page 8. And finally, we have APC chieftain raps Wike over recent political activities. You'll find the details of this on page 30. These are the major headlines on the front page of The Guardian.
Next, we take a look at The Nation newspaper. It carries this headline, PDP crisis, IU hits Wike, Autumn, Makinde, Ikpeazu. And they were nowhere when we formed PDP. Riders here to say Rivers governor demands state's stake in party. Mimiko Duke Adoke Ghana accused of fueling crisis. National Working Committee to meet in Benue, Oyo, Enugu, Abia, and Akwa Ibom governors. Now, that's a major headline on the front page of The Nation newspaper. Going down the bottom, towards the bottom of the page, aviation fuel price hike may affect our operations, CAS Amao warns, and seeks import license, depot establishment. 2035 fossil fuels deadline will hurt economy, says the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. At the bottom of the page there, 7 family members die after breakfast and man stabs grandmother to death. And those are some interesting headlines there on the front page of The Nation. Towards the top of the page there, EFCC proving Zamfara governor for alleged money laundering. Details of that can be found on page 4. Akeredolu accuses federal government of bias in Tompolo's pipeline contract. And Buhari governors, Kalu others greet Kuka at 70. Lagos Okada ban, phase 2 enforcement kicks off. And a look at the economy now. Investors maintain 4.5 trillion naira gains for 8 months. And rider here that says 28.3 billion recorded as net loss in August. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of The Nation newspaper.
Moving on quickly to the Punch newspaper this morning, still staying with politics. 2023 polls, APC presidential aspirants shun Abuja meeting. APC presidential primary co-contestants should not be ignored, says aspirant. Tinubu Shetima unaware of meeting, says campaign team. Oshibajo jets out to US. And as with other papers, you'll find pictures there of those who went to celebrate with Bishop Kuka. Among them are the APC presidential flag bearer Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, Bishop Kuka, President Jonathan, and of course the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Kuka at 70, Nigeria derailing, need right leaders, says Jonathan. Nigeria's record 1.7 million right violations. Children worse hits. This must be according to a report. EFCC arrests 13 illegal miners, impounds 5 trucks. 32 states failed to attract investment in Q2. You'll find details of this on the Punch newspaper. I won't allow anyone destabilize PDP, and this is according to IU. $265 million. Emirates make U-turn to resume flights. You find the details of that on page 26. Named terrorism sponsors, oil thief Obi tells FG. And just beside the name marks, we have strike. ASU welcomes government intervention, wants sincerity. You find this on page 18. I'm sure this is a slight breakaway from earlier reports that they are done with the negotiations. These are the major details on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
And with that, we wrap up the look at the front pages of the headlines. We'll take a short break right now. When we return, we'll go deep into the analysis of those headlines that we've just looked at. Do stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
But in a situation where you find that look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television. And we now have our guest in the studio to look at what the front pages are saying this morning. It's a pleasure to welcome once again this bright Thursday morning the editor-in-chief of sorry, I have a latest update line. I beg your pardon. Madam Nasrallah, I have too many things running through my head already this morning. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
The headlines this morning seem to be touching on several issues based on the developments in the last 24 hours. But the Daily Trust has chosen to highlight the increasing cost of living in Nigeria, occasioned by a number of things. Cost of grains, cost of transportation, the diesel, the difficulty for businesses securing diesel at a competitive price to keep businesses alive, the insecurity that has stopped farmers from going to the farm, thereby hampering production, and now, even worse so, the floods. The little we have been able to produce seem to be swept completely off by the flood. What do you make of this headline this morning?
Well, I think it's a very important story because when you talk about cost of living, you're actually talking about your ability to make enough money, you know, in a way that it will be able to fund your lifestyle. That's taking your kids to school, having the food to eat, you know, being able to transport yourself from one point to another, and things like that. But the fact is, it has not been easy, and you can actually see what is happening. And some of it I will blame government policies, you know, even though so many are saying it's a global thing and what have you. But the fact is, if those in charge of, you know, running the country are putting the needed policies in place, certainly we'll be able to cushion the effect of all the things that are happening around the globe. I remember the president even trying to make, you know, an analogy to say Nigeria is not having it difficult the way its neighbors you know, are also having. But like people will say, if I don't feel it, I may not be able to talk about it. What we are actually facing as Nigerians is the only thing we can talk about. Right now, it's very difficult for people to move from one point to another, to have what to eat, you know, to be able to even afford to pay rent, to take their kids to school, so many things. And you wonder where the government is. People are gradually turning into, you know, government in themselves, in the sense that you have to make provision for your own security. You have to make provision for so many amenities, things that you shouldn't even worry about. But here we are. So I think this is a very important story that is talking about the reality that we face as Nigerians.
Just before I allow Brian come in, we have seen, it does appear, like you have rightly pointed out, that the attacks seem to be coming from every facet. I mean, the schools are about to resume, parents are already, their hearts are already pumping, you know, because of the likelihood of an increase. In fact, some have been communicated that there would definitely be increase in prices. But is it that the government doesn't understand this thing? Because some of these statistics on the worsening living conditions also come from government agencies. Is it an indication that they doubt the statistic that is even coming from an agency of government itself, or is it blatant disregard for the implications of those statistics?
I think that's not even what we should worry about. What actually we should be worrying about is the fact that nobody is even talking about those that are not employed. Right now we're talking about maybe those that are underemployed, you know, or maybe not being able to meet up with certain challenges. Sometimes you will see people talking about the fact that we are like having a middle class, but which middle class are we talking about when most of us are actually one major sickness away from poverty? You know, you will think you are making enough money to be able to take care of so many things, and then once you are faced with a major sickness, before you know it, you are back to zero. You know, you have to start all over again. So, like you said, when government agencies are coming up with things like this, you will expect that, okay, the government has, like, you know, right before it, you know, the reality on the ground. So it's for the government to be able to act on these indices that we are seeing and things like that. So if you ask me, I will say the government should actually worry about those that have no income at all. You know, people that, you know, we have largely agrarian communities. Now people are not able to go to the farms because of insecurity. So how are these people actually faring? Because government should worry. Because when you don't have a legal means of income, then also you begin to think of all sorts of things, taken into crime. You know, just recently the papers were washed with stories of moles, you know, people acting as informants to criminals and things have you. If they have legal means of livelihood, probably they may not want to side with things like that. So that's why the government actually should worry.
Well, talking about what the government is doing or has done, in Nigeria we are quite fortunate not to have a lot of a myriad of natural disasters. We don't have earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and typhoons, cyclones or whatnot. But our main issue is flooding, which we have seen from the beginning of this rainy season. Lots of communities have been submerged, so to speak. And we don't seem to, and it's a perennial problem because it's not just happening now, it has been happening for years now, and we don't seem to have come to grips with what to do with it. It's always about, someone said in Nigeria it's about search and recover and not search and rescue anymore. You understand? Because that's what we're just reacting to it. We're waiting for the floods to happen and then we try to take some action. Isn't there any way we can be proactive in actually forestalling these things? Because we know it will happen eventually.
Yeah. I think what we should even be paying attention to is what it costs to actually recover. As you say, you know, if you put certain things in place, probably you may not have to be coming with relief items, you know, and what have you. Our major problem is the fact that you see our societies are expanding, you know, communities are coming, new communities are coming up every day. But the problem is these communities are actually going there before the government. You know, you see people building along water, you know, channels and lowlands and what have you. And then the government will be forced to react. React in the sense that people have already built their houses, you know, and probably there is nothing you can do. You may not be able to just tell them to leave, because where do you expect them to go? They have put in their resources. But if you go to serious places, even before the expansion, the government must have done its you know, preliminary actions and what have you. There are maybe sanitation, channels, things like that. But in our case, that's not the case. We are always trying to react from one action to another, which is actually very bad.
Still staying with the issue of flood, but slightly away to another form of disaster, we saw the building collapse in Kano. Matter of fact, it even got the attention of the international community. We also saw how firsthand, even with the search and rescue, we are not exactly very proactive. You see agencies, search and rescue agencies coming in and not looking any different from even the onlookers, whether it is in their kitting or with the equipment that you need to adequately deliver this rescue. I mean, the Daily Trust is reporting that rescue workers were even electrocuted in the process, which means there are procedural issues even with the way we conduct rescue. I mean, I'm sure you have followed the Kano incident. What does it bring back to mind when it comes to search and rescue in Nigeria?
We still have a lot to actually learn, because I saw some of the affected people actually saying the rescuers actually went on break. How do you do that in the middle of operation? You know, how do you do that? Maybe you should have worked in shifts, because maybe somebody may need just some few seconds to give up. And if you don't reach him in good time, then we may end up losing him, which is very bad. And one thing I would want to say here is the fact that unless we make our local governments, you know, efficient and effective, honestly, we will continue to talk about things like this, because disaster management should begin at the level of the local governments, you know, because they are closer to the people, and once they have the capacity, they should be able to start at least before, you know, major help will now come to the people. But in this case, the local governments have been reduced to maybe just paying salaries. Even that one, you know, they can't do it as at when due. They have to rely on state governors who have taken over everything, but not also doing the responsibilities. If they are taking over the responsibilities, you know, doing what the local governments are supposed to do, then maybe you will have said, probably it's okay, but the problem is they are not doing anything about the responsibilities of the local government, but they have taken over their resources. And
one critical part to this report would also be the post-rescue attention. With trauma management in Nigeria is close to nothing. If you manage to get some people alive and you take them to the hospital, you just abandon them to their family, not minding the kind of shock they would have gone through and the kind of counseling that they will require to properly heal. Do we ever learn from this crisis, or we are just in a hurry to leave this one and wait for when the next one happens? What can we do differently?
It's unfortunate that the government agencies sometimes they think as if they are doing favors to the people. Because without the people, where will you be? You know, you are there to serve the people. So you should try and be able to do that effectively. And we have been we are being faced with disaster, you know, situations, you know, over and over again. This is not the first time it is happening, and I know this is not going to be the last.
True.
So what do we do to make sure that anytime it happens, we are able to at least handle things, you know, better, not just trying to like, you know, always trying to react when things have gone haywire, and then in the end we will not be able to do what we are supposed to do.
Well, we do hope things change for the better for most of us. We'll be remiss if we actually don't touch on this story that seems to be going around all the newspapers, a PDP crisis or non-crisis, depending on who you talk to. It seems to be taking different dimensions every day. River State Governor fires a salvo. You find the vice presidential candidate of the PDP firing his own salvos, and now we're hearing from the party chairman. What do you make of the whole scenario?
It's like they are still a long way from the reconciliation that they are talking about. For a national chairman, you know, of a major political party to be talking about his opponents, you know, as children, because the last I know, children don't vote in elections. And here we are talking about, you know, state governors, we are talking about former ministers, you know, people that are like heavyweight in their own right. But that shows you that we are still a long way from the reconciliation that they are talking about. Instead of like so many people will even say, you know, those who made pencils, you know, didn't forget to do erasers. So possibly now that he's talking in this way, for them to be able to reconcile things, he may have to go back on some of the things that, you know, he is saying. And the same thing with his opponents, you know. You need to have like a united front to be able to prosecute the 2023 elections. If you go there as a divided house, then you should only blame yourself whatever comes your way. But I expect other, you know, elders of the party to actually intervene. Let them, you know, be circumspect, not talking, you know, saying all the things that they feel like saying in the media, because the media thrives on that. You know, they are looking for stories, and the more controversy you have, the better, because people like reading about all these major players. You know, whatever they do is news. So the journalists will continue to look for things like this, and it's left to them to decide whether that's exactly what they want to be showing about themselves.
I would still like you to touch on 2 days ago the government made public its plan to borrow for the next budget, which we have become accustomed to apparently. But what was surprising is that this time we will be doubling whatever we had done, you know, prior to this time, which is likely to shoot our debt figures to the region of 50 trillion, the highest ever we have attained, even pre the debt forgiveness in 2004. And every time you speak to analysts, they keep telling you that borrowings have options. I mean, there are different ways to attain these things. PPPs are options and all of that. Why is it that we seem to have developed a penchant for easy money? We would rather go and borrow the hot cash, and we find it difficult to then account for it rather than target these borrowings to projects where people can fund and recover them. Why is it difficult to look at alternatives to borrowing in this country?
Because, like you said, it has become the easiest way out. You know, maybe you just go borrow and then allow whoever takes you know, over from you to worry about things like that. But because we are not a serious country, we are not even talking about reducing the cost of governance. We keep talking, mouthing it, but we don't act on it. Our officials are still moving about with, you know, long motorcade, you know, people that you don't even need. What stops you from moving about with just two vehicles? Maybe one and then another spare, so that when one breaks down, you continue with the other. But no, you see so many people that are not doing anything, you know, guzzling for so many things, and then you keep borrowing. So instead of all this money that you are borrowing to go into productive ventures, you end up funding the lifestyle of our politicians. I saw a story even saying that a Senate committee, you know,
civil
servants will say the same thing about politicians, because it's the politicians that are, the politicians are actually the ones that, you know, determine some of the things that happen at all this civil. So where are we going? That's what we should be talking about.
Well, that is a very serious issue to actually look at. But just like Sunday asked, isn't there any other way that we can do something? I mean, we borrow this cash. It's just cash that we're collecting, and we spend it. And we use it for things like you just pointed out now, the cost of governance. We pay salaries, we give allowances and all that. And then we sit down and we wait for the next cycle so that we can borrow again. We're not like bringing in this money, okay, let's put it into a particular venture or something like that that can actually yield something that might be able to use, that we can be able to use to service some of this debt. Isn't there anything that we can do differently?
Well, we can tap into, you know, the resources at the disposal of the private sector, but unfortunately in Nigeria, you can hardly differentiate between the private sector and the public. Yeah, because most of the companies that you see thriving, you know, they're actually being owned by people in government. So if that's not the case, then we should be able to see funds coming, because this is something that you will be able to make money from.
Exactly.
And businessmen are actually in it for the money, not just because they want to help the government, but the problem is we don't even have that scenario. So we are left with, you know, the government borrowing, and then in the end we don't even know where the money is going.
Interesting. In 30 seconds, yesterday, Jonathan was given a recipe of how he solved that food crisis in his time, even though we understand that the issues are still there. But is there anything to learn from the admonition that he gave the government at the Kuka 70th anniversary yesterday?
Yeah, he was actually directing his suggestion to the president, because what he said, you know, despite all the committee meetings and all the panels and what, he had to like intervene directly, and that's like what he's telling the president.
It's time for you to come.
It's time for you to come in. We don't want to keep hearing about the president directing, you know, giving orders. You should actually, you know, be at the center and then be able to solve this once and for all.
Interesting suggestion there. As a way of wrapping this conversation this morning, it's been very insightful comments and analysis from our analysts in the studio. We've been talking to the editor-in-chief of Dateline newspaper. This time my memories did not fail me. Ibrahim Nasrullah, a former colleague, a senior brother, and a professional to the core. It's a pleasure having you today. We wish you the best of what is left of the day.
Thank you for having me.
This is where we'll draw the curtain on newspaper analysis this morning. When we return at the top of the hour, the show continues. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Every patriotic Nigerian should hear this. Any politician who means well for the people will never allow themselves or their supporters to engage in any violent, destructive activities. No politician who truly wants to serve the people and develop the nation will encourage his followers to destroy properties or take human lives before, during, or after the elections. The Nigerian public must watch out for these traits and isolate any politician who encourages supporters to engage in violence. No genuine politician or patriot will cause trouble and seek to destroy the very society which they aspire to lead or develop. Politicians who have the good of the people at heart will not allow themselves or their followers to engage in violence, destruction of properties, and then taking of lives. Be vigilant. By their words you shall know them. Shun violence. Stay away from politicians who want you to do so. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NORA.
Residents of the Federal Capital Territory are hereby alerted to the activities of scavengers, also known as Babambula, which security agencies have identified as a high-level security threat to not only the residents but also to our infrastructure as they perpetrate petty stealing and acts of vandalism on public utilities. More so, they are drug peddlers, serve as spies to terrorist elements, and are ready-made tools for the public disturbances during which they attack people with dangerous weapons. The Federal Capital Territory Administration therefore reiterates that the ban on scavengers aka Bababula operating within the Federal Capital City is still in force. These miscreants are advised to stay off the streets of the Federal Capital City for their own good, as defaulters will be apprehended and prosecuted, including parents of underage children involved in these practices. Relevant agencies are carrying out enforcement of this ban as stipulated. Be law-abiding always. Let's together build the FCT of our dreams. Management announcer.
Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust Television. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the 1st of September. Happy New Month. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
Happy New Month indeed. A beautiful Thursday morning out here. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
We move on straight to the news highlights this morning. How some generals threatened me with CIA, Wiki.
And MDA's probe, House of Reps blame AGF, CBN over discrepancy in remittances.
And Nigeria's energy transition VP Oshibajo departs for US to seek global partnership.
And now the details. Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State has said some retired military generals in the country have threatened to use their CIA contacts to deal with him if he did not do their bidding. Now speaking in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, on Wednesday, Wike described as unfortunate the inability of those retired generals to use their contacts to solve the Boko Haram insurgency. Wike also said if President Muhammadu Buhari does not renege on his pledge not to interfere with the conduct of the 2023 general elections, the All Progressives Congress will be doomed. Adding, according to Governor Wike, such resolve means that President Buhari is serious about leaving an enduring legacy of conducting free and fair elections.
And moving on, Vice President Yemi Oshibajo on Wednesday departed for the United States of America to seek global partnership and support for the Nigeria's recently launched energy transition plan. According to a statement by the VP's spokesperson Laolu Akande, the Vice President will meet his American counterpart Kamala Harris, World Bank Group, and other partners. The Vice President is leading Nigeria's Energy Transition Implementation Working Group on the U.S. mission, with meetings starting from September 1 to promote the plan and secure global support from the United States government, private sector, and other developmental partners. Nigeria's energy transition plan launched last week is set to need at least $10 billion per annum above business and as usual spendings for effective implementation.
Meanwhile, the House Committee on Finance has frowned at what it described as unfortunate the negligence displayed by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and most MDAs over some discrepancies noticed in their 2021 remittances to the federal government account. The committee made this observation during day 2 of the ongoing probe into the activities of MDAs, where the Accountant General's Office and 2 agencies, the Energy Commission and the Oil Spill Detection and Response Agencies, presented conflicting figures to the committee. The committee, which was led by its deputy, Said Abdullahi, blamed the agencies for encouraging gross misappropriation in government. The committee, while discharging the agencies, directed them to reconcile all remittances with the Accountant General's Office and reappear before the committee with documents relating to every transaction from 2021.
For 2021, we have the receipt, treasury receipt, issued to Energy Commission that backed our 100% remittance.
How much?
Our record is 13 million. The 12 million from tender fees. We have auction. We generated 553, and then we have refunds, which is 183 million. The total is 13 million. 627,600.
But in their records, they have 27 million.
Well, sir, I could.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Office of the Accountant General, what's the source of the additional inflow? As a country, we talk about problem of revenue, we talk about issues of debt and what have you. And the reality is, no one will come from anywhere to make this country work for us. We will make it work by ourselves. And this is the way we're going to make it work. It's by talking to ourselves and ensuring that the right thing is done at all spheres of government. So, Director of Finance, you've heard some of the valid points that have been raised. What we have seen from your submission is that in most cases you outspend what you even have as funds in the commission. You are spent, where you have 2.4 billion rather, you spend 2.42 billion, you spend 2.46. I don't think in terms of, how do you even manage a deficit?
Moving on to other reports, the police operatives in Katsina have busted armed robbery syndicate, arresting 19 persons and recovered 13 vehicles in the process. The suspected armed robbers, who are said to have specialized in terrorizing residents, were arrested in Modaji area in Katsina Metropolis. Abdullahi Yamadi reports.
The police command is happy with this arrest for two reasons. The first is because the residents of Katsina City have been having sleepless nights, all because of the nefarious acts of the suspected armed robbers. The command is also saying the suspects have been giving the police a serious headache as they constantly changed tactics from housebreaking to car snatching to armed robbery.
Residents, especially of the Katsina metropolitan area, were to be given with the activities of a syndicate that specializes in housebreaking, armed robbery, and theft of motor vehicles. The command did not rest on its oath, but launched a manhunt for the daredevil criminals, and to God be the glory, it has succeeded in cracking down the syndicate terrorizing the state.
Several dangerous weapons were recovered from the suspect during the arrest.
The syndicate broke and attacked residents of the Nura Lawal M of Madoji quarters, GRA Casino, with a gun and other weapons, robbed him of his motor vehicle, Toyota Corolla LE 2010 model, with registration number ABJ 836HC, hash in color, value 3,500,000.
Amid incessant terrorist attacks, which have devastated most parts of Katsina State, the police, based on credible intelligence, have also cracked down on a terrorist syndicate alongside their informants and other collaborators. Honestly, I regret my actions. I have been in this terrorism, kidnapping, cattle wrestling for over 3 years now. I have never seen a bad day like this. I regret it. We are too many on our group, and of course we used master key to steal vehicles, and it is very simple using a master key. We used to sell our vehicles in Kano, Bauchi and other places. But today, we are in trouble. The police is, however, saying the successes being recorded in the fight against terrorism, armed robbery and other criminalities are successful because of the support the command is enjoying from the public. Abdullahi Ismail, Trust Television News, Katsina.
And still talking security, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps NSCDC has arrested a 27-year-old fake soldier in Gombe. Parading the suspect, the NSCDC said Suleiman Rabiu, who has been parading himself as a military officer for the past 2 years, will be charged to court. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
The 27-year-old Suleiman Rabiu is also being accused of torturing helpless civilians in Gombe metropolis. Speaking to newsmen, the suspected impersonator confessed to the crime.
I used to parade myself as a soldier everywhere. I told an officer that I was an army officer. I later retracted, but he investigated and confirmed I am an imposter.
The Gombe State Commandant of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, said the suspected army imposter was arrested following an intelligence report.
The other second one is, you see, he's wearing fika for the military, a military uniform, parading himself as a military officer. And time without numbers, they bring complaints to him, to us, and then after all, we arrested him. We do all our utmost, strength in order to bring sanity to this state, and then do all our possible, possibility, so that we'll now do and then abort crimes and then criminality in the state, so that people will sleep with their eyes closed.
The NSCDC also paraded some suspected vandals of telecom masts and internet fraudsters. The command said all the suspects will be arraigned in court for trial. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
And away from crime and the police, experts have described street hawking by minors as a vivid picture of child neglect and exploitation by parents and agents who push young children into what has, for them, become a business for not only survival but for material gain. In this report, Trust TV Kabir Lawal takes a look at the street hawking, especially between the ages of 8 and 15 in the Federal Capital Territory. The report.
The phenomenon of street hawking has considerably increased throughout the world and most especially in Nigeria. Every year, billions of individuals, mostly female, are forced to submit to servitude. In urban cities where the business is commonly believed to be poverty-motivated thrives, children and women, who are the major role players, face different risks, especially rape, accident, ritual activities, as well as loss of education opportunities. However, parents have been cautioned to desist from sending their ward street hawking, as it is against the Child Rights Act, which has been domesticated in more than 30 states of the Federation.
The economic situation is really dwindling and is going down, and which is also contributing to making a lot of parents send their kids out on the street. But I would say on the part of the government, they really have a major role to play because they are the guardian of these children. If we have better laws in place that protects the Child Act and that has strict punishments to those who default these laws, I believe it can go a long way to curbing this issue.
However, parents decreed the lack of employment and economic hardship as some of the reasons why they indulge their wards in street hawking to be able to put food on the table. They made desperate plea to government to regulate the rising inflation currently in the country.
Kids should be in school. They shouldn't be seen hawking at about this time of the day. Even if they have to do it, it shouldn't be during school hours. Yeah, I understand this is summer, but I mean, the government should do something about it. Ensure kids go to school.
I think being government now develop interest in this Nigerians individual and creating job opportunity. All this one will not continue.
Government is at the center of it all because without the government, there's nothing the masses can do. Without a strong law in place, there's nothing that can be done. And then you see some children who are on the street. Some of them don't even have parents. How are such children supposed to survive? I feel like the government should make provision, maybe in its budget, that caters for such kids.
Some of the underage children that spoke to our correspondent said the economic situation of the country has made them come out to sell things on street, adding that most of the time their teachers are not available in the school. My parents are not here, but I stay with my uncle, and he has been of help to me. Most time our teachers in the village are not there when we're in school, which made it very difficult for us to learn. My parents are not rich. We have to keep food on the table for ourselves, and I have no option than to arm out and help my parents despite the economic situation. Street hawking is a universal phenomenon which requires urgent attention from all and sundry as it distorts child's development and government policies. Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And as the world evolves away from the use of fossil fuels in line with the Paris Conference Agreement, the Director General of the Nigeria Automotive Design and Development Council, Jelani Aliu, says electric vehicles will help to further foster an eco-friendly environment in the country. He further added that these vehicles are now easy to use and technologically friendly, especially for young people. Christina Amodu has details.
The Director General of the National Automotive Design and Development Council, Jelani Aliu, has said that electric vehicles will help the country benefit from the gains of renewable and sustainable energy. He added that the innovation will help to foster an eco-friendly environment. Aliu disclosed this during a test drive session of the first assembled electric vehicle at the headquarters of Media Trust Limited in Abuja.
This is a significant milestone because it shows that Nigeria as a nation is committed to environmental protection. It will also allow us, like I mentioned earlier, meet the targets of the Paris Accord. It will also spur and expedite technology transfer. It looks advanced. Yes, it is advanced, but it's actually a whole lot simpler technology than a petrol or diesel powered vehicle. This would allow young Nigerians, the youth most especially, to really understand this technology and even come up with new solutions that would be even more advanced and more applicable for Nigeria and Africa.
The first locally assembled electric car was first launched in November 2020 by the Lagos State Governor. The electric car was regarded in the European motoring industry as the world's #1, and it cost 24 million naira. It is imperative to know that the material used to assemble the 100% electric and zero-emission car was mostly sourced locally. Christiana Amodu Otiya, Trust TV News.
Interesting report there from Christiana, and well, a certain kind of future awaits us in Nigeria. On the one hand, we seem to be spending billions and billions of naira prospecting on new oil wells in Nigeria. On the other hand, the world is fast moving away from fossil fuel, and whether we like it or not, at some point we may have so much of this fossil fuel resources, but very little demand.
Exactly.
So we have to move in the direction that the world is also
can we move in that direction?
I hope we will not get to a point where we have to import electricity as importing fuel, despite having the resources
to actually
generate as much as possible in-house. That is where we would draw the curtain on the reports and news highlights this morning. We'll take a short breather. When we return, we'll go into our discussion proper. Please stay with us.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back, and now we will be talking aviation. The Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, on Tuesday accused the Nigerian local airliners of deliberate attempt to cripple its operations. NCAA said the local airliners are owing it over $19 billion and $7.6 million on ticket charges that they have collected from passengers but have refused to remit to the authority. NCAA said the situation is crippling its finances and pitching the authority against the federal government of Nigeria. The NCAA Director General, Captain Musa Nuhu, stated this in Abuja at a stakeholders meeting with the airliners and aviation agencies. On ending crisis in the aviation industry, you may say, we have aviation and IT experts and Managing Director, Aviation Africa Platform, Dr. Frank Ugochukwu, joining us virtually from Lagos to share his thought this morning. Good morning, Dr. Ugochukwu.
Good morning.
Have you joined us this morning?
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
We have seen all kinds of crises rocking the Nigerian aviation sector. At one point, it was jet A1 fuel. Then we moved on to airlines finding it difficult to find forex to repatriate sales in Nigeria. That's talking about the foreign airline. then, I mean, it has been one kind of crisis or the other until the recent disclosure by the NCAA that airline operators owe them somewhere in the tune of 25 billion naira from unremitted funds from ticket sales and all of that. And we have also seen the AON respond to say that the agencies are trying to criminalize them, as aviation businesses are largely a credit-driven business, not a cash business. What do you make of all of this crisis coming from that sector in recent time?
All right, thank you very much for that summary of what happened in the aviation industry today. From where you stopped, they're saying that aviation is the cash and S-based business. Put this in perspective. When I buy it, I pay cash. I don't buy ticket on credit. Now, the NCA is talking about is charge. Go say those charge from where would the airline collect the money cash from passenger doing freight, cargo, and all that? And not remit that money back to NCA, who actually didn't have that money. So actually, for me, it's baseless in the sense that TSC and CSC based transactions for the duty is an obligation for them to remit. It's not their money. TSC is paid by the passenger. Cargo sales charge is actually paid by sending cargo or freight. So they're just like an agency or for the CAA. They have no business holding back that money because daily sales every day. At the end of the day, they sales for the day. So they know what belongs to NCAA, that they collect money on their behalf. So we need to put that in perspective because it's baseless.
And the AON failed to reach an understanding, and the NCAA actually carries out its threat and to sanction these airlines. Isn't that just making a bad situation even worse with the current situation of Nigerian aviation now?
Okay, so basically the issue of safety, economic regulation. An airline is not economically, then it's going to impact on safety and money. This issue about money. So why will it due? So that means there's a problem with the airline, really, in terms of cash flow and all of that. So why keep the money? So the point here is simple. Operating uneconomically, NC by law. So those are flags, those are red signals, flags that are coming up right now. That keeping back the money that does not belong to them. They need to remit that money. So for crashes to happen, to do the right thing, the answer is no. So we need to aviation environment safe. That's what is critical. So they do their own part, comply with the regulations, so that they can actually save flight for passengers.
So Gochuku, talking about safe flight for passengers and the fact that you have also alluded that this is about cash flows. Do we completely wave away the reality that is confronting airline operators in Nigeria? I mean, within a single calendar year, we have seen aviation fuel move from 250 naira to about 800 naira per liter. We have seen how it has been very difficult to secure forex from the official window, especially as you know that the aviation business is completely dollarized, whether it is in terms of buying spare parts or taking these aircraft out for C checks and all of that, which then means that other than getting these dollars from the official window, they have to resort to the black market with a premium of over 200 to secure the money they need to keep up or keep pace with maintenance? Do we just wave aside the concerns that were raised by the AON in a bid to raise this money that are actually due to the government? How do we go about resolving this problem? We appear to have a bit of glitch there with network services. We would come back to you the moment Mr. Ogochukwu comes back online. We will take a short break. Okay, Mr. Ogochukwu, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you.
The point that in the face of the challenges that are confronting airline operators in Nigeria, like I said, the forex crisis particularly, because this is a business that is completely dollarized, whether you are taking aircraft out of the country for C checks or A checks, or you want to acquire spare parts, as the case may be, and all of that, you require dollars, much of which cannot be sourced from the official window, which means they seem to be going for the parallel market with a premium of over 200 naira from the official window. In the face of the question you raise on safety, can we wave away the concerns that have been put forward by the airline operators of Nigeria as the reasons why they seem to be running short on their obligations to the authorities?
So they have very valid concerns with regards to Jet A1 fuel pricing, forex issue, but that dates their actions in terms of keeping what belongs to them. Now, in the industry today, we're solving it one by one, a basic view of the issues, and come on to actually, that we're facing today. I mean, it's we're having in our industry today. So is when the foreigners cried out, they can't represent their funds that Nigeria, of course, obligated to represent those funds, agreements, and all that. So, the issues are there. They that's the first. So, with CBN, we create a space for them to be able to have access to carry out their maintenance and these checks and buy spare parts and all that. Then that CBN, the government actually needs to look at that issue and provide a special intervention for the foreign airlines to have access to dollar at the not black market rates. So we need to look at all the issues holistically, solve the problem. So we can't just take one out and just solve. Interim is important. They have access to foreign. Right now, capacity is dwindling.
Another Okay, Dr. Ogochukwu. Another issue that was raised that seemed to be eking a lot of Nigerians from that briefing by the NCAA is the fact that they have not raised fares or whatever they call charges in the last 13 years, and they are thinking of a review upwards. Given the challenges that is bedeviling that sector and how much the cost of a 1-hour flight has risen so much from anywhere in the region of 35,000-40,000 to about 120,000 today. Do you think it is the right time for the NCAA to be talking about a possible raise in fees, which, by the way, will be transferred directly to the Nigerian consumers?
Okay, so is it the right time for the airlines to increase fares? Based on the economic environment in Nigeria, the purchasing power of Nigerians, the right time. So taking it from there, basically, the charges has not been reduced. And now among the lowest in the region. Between Nigeria and Ghana and other countries, our charges are low. So for you to start an airline, you need to have a business plan. You need to have a proper finance framework to run your business. Ownership structure of business in Nigeria, actually, in airlines, most of them are or a family owned, basically. So we need to have airlines that are stable, that can compete any international any airline. But I don't think it's actually wrong for NCA reviewing their rates. For over 13 years, airlines have moved from 30,000 to 120 in this period. So economical fares based on all that. So that's right, buying diesel to run its operations. Like the airlines are buying, they want to run their flights. Would the NCA increase their fares?
All right, so with all the crises going on in the aviation sector right now, and there seems to be no respite to actually talking about increasing fares and whatnot, isn't there any measures that we can take as a government or any for a policy or something that can actually make things a bit easier, both for the operators, the agencies, and of course the passengers as well? Because ultimately the passengers are really what everybody is here for.
Well, the issue started with Jet A1 fuel this year. The key thing actually in Jet A1 in Nigeria, we have 4 refineries that for several years now, because that's going to be the effect of high cost of Jet A1 fuel that's been imported. Things like you said, dollarized. The fuel is being imported foreign currency, come that. So if we're refining fuel, look, prices are going to be in Naira, and it will be international rates, crude oil from Nigeria, refined in Nigeria. That's one way of solving this issue of, and it's not about JD1. It has to do with diesel and all of the derivatives oil. So all of those, that's part of the issue that government needs to deal with.
Dr. Ogochukwu, and finally, before we let you go, the airline operators have come up with a model asking the government to sort of serialize, or if you like, amortize these loans, structure them such that they can be taken out of their operations gradually rather than in one fell swoop, which has the capacity to completely ground operations. What would you say about this suggestion? How else can we solve this problem and move away from the threat to a stable aviation operation?
No, but the airlines that they need to come and sit down and talk with them, MOU, on how they're going to repay this loan, the outstanding funds that they are holding. So it's important for us to sit down and agree where to actually pay off these funds. See, I believe SCA is open to the fact gradually, but the airlines are tied to those agreements when it's made.
Interesting perspective there. We have been talking with Dr. Frank Ugochukwu, an aviation and IT expert there, providing solutions to the crisis rocking the aviation sector in Nigeria and what we can do to move forward. It's a pleasure talking to you, Dr. Ugochukwu.
Thank you very much. Ugochukwu, not Ugochukwu.
Much for that correction and for talking to us at such short notice. Do have a pleasant day ahead. We will now take a short break. When we return, we'll move straight to our second conversation of the day. Please stay with us.
Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust TV. Well, now we'll take a look at our second issue of the discussion for the morning, and it's talking about sports, football in particular, and the European transfer market ends today, and different players have changed clubs since the window opened early in the summer. Now, we're trying to bring you the analysis of the business done so far. For instance, in continuation of its rebuilding efforts, Manchester United, for example, got released players like Paul Pogba, Juan Mata, and Nemanja Matic, and welcoming Anthony Casemiro, among others. Now, we have joining us in the studio, Trust TV sports presenter, producer, extraordinaire, Adeni Ajishafe. Right here in the studio.
All these accolades for me?
Yes, all for you. All right. So, transfer window. Today is deadline day. They were still having some transfers coming in very late. The latest big one we heard was Wesley Fofana to Chelsea for like 70 million on a defender. And so, what's your general analysis of the transfer window this
Okay, first of all, let's start with, let's look at figures. Right now, about £1.7 billion have so far been spent on transfer this summer. That shows that there's an improvement, upward improvement in the graph of transfer compared to that's after COVID, post-COVID now. It means it's booming, it's getting better. In 2017, thereabout, it has the biggest, 1.43, that's 430 million rather, pounds that is spent. But right now, 1.7, that means that's an upward movement, and it shows that really English Premier League clubs are really going to the market to buy players. Yeah, even though some are rejecting, but some are coming.
We've seen a lot of Premier League splash the cash. Even Arsenal, that you're known to be conservative when it comes to transfer markets, actually dipped into the win market this time around. Manchester City, Chelsea, we've already talked about, and Manchester United as well.
Now, just like we have mentioned, if you calculate amount of the number of players so far acquired in EPL alone, about 143 players in English Premier League, and you look at, wow, how come England rather, you look at players moving, why some are rejecting, some are actually coming. And if you look at the deadline today, Germany, Spain, Italy, France, all of them tonight. Although earlier than, let's say, England now by 11, you have Spain, you have Germany by 5, you have all of them are battle ready, running around to see that rush hour, they call it rush hour. You begin to see clubs running around, panic buying, and also it will also be included. But right now, I think EPL, despite the fact that some players have refused to come due to some reason, but really they're still doing well when it comes to business of selling and buying players. Now for Chelsea, they really need striker, and according to the news filtering in that before today ends, they are really running after a striker and also a midfielder. Because right now they've gotten defense enough, so let them go to the market. Really need a top line. There's a player called Alvarez, a Mexican. They are trying to bid about £51 million. So Body is supporting that particular bid, and they should make sure they get him. For Neymar, right now, PSG offer Chelsea. Chelsea are ready to buy now. PSG are drawing back. Why? Neymar is scoring and he's doing well, and everything's
and it's going to be difficult for them to get a replacement.
So it's better for them to hold on to him. So that's very painful. But who knows? Maybe anything can still happen. For Manchester United, they've got Malaysia, they got all the players they wanted. Anthony is coming. Probably that deal will be sealed today, finally. And you look at for Ronaldo, well, that might just not happen because of some issues here and there. And you just have to look at, well, let me just stay and enjoy football.
It's a simple issue. Nobody wants him. That's
interesting. But what's happening to the Osimhen deal? Today is up, tomorrow is off.
I don't think Osimhen will be coming.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Let's just say that way. Osimhen will be coming.
Because I think his move was tied to Ronaldo moving the other way.
Swapping, loan, 100 million euro and all that. But really, from the way it is, I don't know how they would do it, that they can beat time. And it's even obvious that Napoli are not ready to let go their talisman. So
interesting.
That's just the point.
Well, you talked about the English Premier League's doing better. We have seen big money bags move into the ownership. We saw how much Newcastle has splashed in this transfer window alone, and they are willing to compete with the top guns when it comes to spending, because they also want to return to their glory days. We know that TV rights are doing better. They are now spraying matches from Friday to Mondays to give us much room for most of the matches to be live on television. What are they doing in the English Premier League that seem to be making even small teams, you know, go for some of the finest and expensive players, as against even what big teams like the Barcelonas of this world can afford?
To be candid, no matter how you want to say it, really, despite how that we believe is hyped or not, but really it's very, very amazing to look at the English Premier League as kind of example of how other leagues want to copy. How do they do this business that despite the fact that we know, oh, they are hyping players, but yet they keep making a lot of money and people still want to go there because, one, the publicity is very, very huge. If you play it even in the championship, third tier, even fourth league, be rest assured, the fame you gather can actually be bigger than somebody playing La Liga Santander or somebody playing Italia Serie A. Why? The press, the way they push the league, the way the TV right, as you mentioned, the jersey sales, the noise, the boisterous noise, supporting, making sure that this league, it might not be as, like somebody was saying yesterday that Spanish La Liga is more valuable. I was like, well, agreed. But there is the kind of publicity that English Premier League generates, that support alone from English press, it's enough to make players want to come there to come and play.
I think it boils down to packaging.
Yeah,
I mean, like how you package it very well.
Like one, like how do you say in Nigeria, sugar coated, whatever. The way they package it, the icing on the cake of this, everybody want to come there. Oh, England, let me go there, because they know that even if you cough, it's going viral.
Exactly.
So that alone makes you very popular. So to be candid, the package of EPL, let me borrow that word from Ibrahim, really has made EPL to be very, very scintillating.
Talking about the transfer windows, a number of Nigerians have made moves in this current transfer window. We've seen movement across continents, we've seen movement across leagues, and it's the final day. You told us we should not look forward to Osimhen. Which other deal do you think will likely happen as far as Nigerians are concerned?
It could be Sadiq Umar, but even before I got
he's also already picking forms and scoring goals.
He's doing well with Almeria, but from the way it is, the news actually a bit dicey. Some are saying it has collapsed. Some are saying, well, there's still hope. A 20 million euro move from Almeria to Real Sociedad to actually replace Alexander Isak, the one they sold to Newcastle.
Yeah.
And if
cost me a serious pain yesterday, by the way.
Yes, scale through. That would be nice. But I would really love him to move to, at least that would be an upward movement of performance. You can't compare Sociedad with Almeria when it comes to placing the two clubs. That's not, well, let's talk about Sadiq Umar. Any other one? I also saw another rumor, because you know, gossip a lot in transfer. Samuel Chukwueze, that he could be moving from Villarreal, but we wait to see if that will be happening to Everton. I still don't know how, you know, at times they will just test the market to see the reaction.
Agents just test the waters.
Agents try it and see what's going to be the reaction of people. So far, for Nigerians tonight, between now and 11 o'clock, I don't know, like I mentioned, maybe Sadiq Umar, if it's possible. And for those who have been at least like Awoni, like Dennis, they're happy with. Let's see what they can offer, because right now
Aribo, I think Aribo also moved.
Yes,
like the 18 or 17 player got seen by Nottingham Forest, your club.
Yes,
they are not really answering well. I told you they will remain in the forest. I told you they'll go back to the forest that they came from.
Yeah, it's actually not.
They are feeling the heat now.
Yeah, it's not all about, as we discussed, it's actually not all about the quantity you get, but what is the quality? What is the quality of?
Because when I saw that move, actually I'm not condemning Awuni and Dennis move to Nottingham Forest, but at times, you know, these agents can always want to coerce you to just because you know their commission could be huge and all that.
But you could
look at Nottingham Forest now. They are getting bit from here and there.
But you could talk about that. What if it's a publicity opportunity to get proper playing time and get snatched up by a proper club?
But what if, now check, how many matches now that they've played full 90 minutes? They just started the league, right? But now we started seeing them on the bench. It's not supposed to be so.
And when you
20 million euro, 17 million, and you expect this player at least
to go straight
both of them
in.
are strikers. Let's see what they can do.
And when you buy like 19 or 18 players, you already have players on your roster. That means how many players you actually have in the squad?
No, they actually most of the players that qualified them to EPL, they were on loan. So most of them are back to their clubs.
But still, rotation is going to be a problem.
And even like I was telling someone, this coach can even be confused because he's new to most of the. Yes, they just got them before they know this is a defender. But who will I even?
Because we saw it with Fulham a few seasons ago. They came, they spent a boatload of money, but they still went down. So, but I don't think that's going to happen to Forest.
Well, who knows? Maybe if they can clear the Forest enough.
That won't happen to Forest. Wesley Fofana, 70 million. How good a buy is that? Because we've seen players who have gone for big monies, and at the end of the year, let's just call it. Let's put it out there. Maguire, he went for a lot of money and he's not cutting it. Wesley Fofana to Chelsea, is that a good move? Well,
from the way I see it, I think despite the hype that surrounded the buying of Maguire and also moving to Manchester United, which didn't go well, the marriage was a bit kind of sour. But if you look at Fofana's case, I think I see him as kind of in the mold of Kante. You know why? Humble player who really wants to achieve something. He's not coming because he wants to go and prove a point. No, you know he's good enough. It's a good deal for Chelsea. Just that, I just hope, because they have so many defenders, they have got so many players. Now they need a striker who, after defending, after playing well in the midfield, somebody needs to put this thing behind the goalkeeper and score for them. They need someone. So for Fofana's case, well, I think Leicester knows how to do business. £70 million is not a small pie, but right now I expect Fofana to at least click with Chelsea.
Talking about people who may likely do business, we've seen that Liverpool has struggled since the beginning. We've seen injuries with major midfielders, and there have been talk about Bellingham from Borussia Dortmund. Is that likely going to happen with their current situation?
They will pick up. They will pick up. I think they've started picking up. They started showing that really they are the team that never walk alone. They are right now drawing everything just to get those results. Yes, injury is really having a toll on the team performance, but I think right now Liverpool are beginning to show that yes, we are one of the best. We are Liverpool. It begins to show to other teams that even though we are down, we are not totally out. We can move and at least make sure we gather a lot of months.
Let's move away slightly from the Premier League. One team that actually surprised a lot of people this summer is Barcelona. Barcelona were broke. Everybody knows that Barcelona does not have money, but they have made so much business this transfer window.
Creative
exactly, very creative business. I mean, like it's a wonder how Barcelona were able to pull off some of the moves they actually made during this transfer, competing with the likes of Chelsea, who have all the big money that they could spend. So how do you see Barcelona's business this season?
I think they did very shrewd business. They were shrewd. Whoever is making those moves for them on the ground has really done well for Barcelona. And despite the fact that, at times, if somebody, at times, all these clubs, they are very wise. They declare, okay, we don't have money, we don't have money. Not that they are totally out of cash. After all, they sold some rights. They did everything possible to have enough cash to go for these players. Okay, if you can get them first, it was just a plan, a process. Get the players, then we'll see how we can register them, which worked out. They went out, what can we sell? It's like you have something that you can dispose of to get something that will actually give you more value. Okay, we can sell this right, we can sell this, we can sell this, so virtually so many things. And that gave them some cash. They went out, they bought those players they really wanted. Right?
And some of them even for reduced income. The players were willing to come to the new camp at a much
lower amount.
Lower
and they came. Look at Lewandowski. He had to drop his wages. He dropped it just to move in, and now he's working for them. Another thing, they were able to register, beating the deadline. The fair play, whatever, they will make sure they beat. The one that couldn't enter, they waited. That's with Jude Koundé's transfer. Now they've succeeded in registering him. All they are doing right now is, okay, who is going? Who has, okay, if you are not going to stay, if you are not going to leave, you are going to reduce your money. Do you agree? I agree, stay. You are going, okay, look at Aubameyang's case now. Chelsea either 15 million pounds or not. Now they can brag. Okay, no, we don't want 15 million pounds. They know Chelsea need a striker.
Exactly.
Now they are using that one to actually hold Chelsea by saying, okay, pay more.
And give us Marcos Alonso as
Alonso clause. 15 million is too small.
Exactly.
And I'm sure right now they are negotiating seriously to get Aubameyang, and that's why they are making it look like they don't want to sell him.
But
Really,
they do.
want to
But
sell.
they do want to sell.
They want to sell. In fact, more than
they
ready to
actually
sell.
need to sell him.
Exactly. So for Barcelona, I'll give them a thumbs up for at least going to the market and able to turn things around against all odds. Yeah.
Finally, before you go, one country that seems to amaze me every transfer season is the German league. They are not always in the news for buying the highest price players or whatever, but somehow the consistency from especially their flag bearers at the Champions League or the Europa League are top notch. How do they manage to stay consistent with top quality players and not exactly the big spenders when it comes to transfer window?
I think just like you, I will pick a word from what you said, consistently. So that shows that German league, they've been able to all this while make sure, okay, what do we do? Let's adopt this style of get the players very young or go to academy, get them very young. We can at least project these players. Buyers will come, will sell at a very huge price. We make more money. We have enough money in the bank, more liquid that we can easily buy. And they don't make much noise. You know, like I said, the way the press hyped players in England, the German press are a bit quiet. You don't even know most of this until you see the player coming to or going to a bigger club. Like, oh, this is a player, oh, this particular player. But right now, really, you just have to appreciate the German style of business. Among all the top 5 leagues in Europe, they've been the most consistent when it comes to having liquid, not having much issue of debt. You know, they are kind of healthy. The league is very healthy about when it comes to debt. They don't have much debt compared to others. They have that standard that, okay, we are not going beyond what we have. We spend, despite the fact that Bayern even have enough cash, they are still very careful. The FFP rule, that's financial fair play rule, they always want to stand by it. Now, you look at some clubs trying to make sure they can reduce that financial fair play. PSG now, they are in trouble. They are trying to see how they can balance their books, but they don't do that in Germany.
It was a serious balancing act when it comes to financial fair play and, of course, buying the right players at the right time for the right price. Adeni Ajishafe, it's been a pleasure having you on the show this morning to discuss the transfer window. We hope to have you again to go maybe mid-season so that we can actually have a review and see what's going on.
No problem. Just make sure you bring the business.
Definitely, the business will be there. All right, so this is how we're going to wrap it up on Daybreak this beautiful Thursday morning. Let's do it all again tomorrow. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
It's a pleasure to have you allow us come into your living room for free. I hope we have served you value in the last 2 hours. Continue to stay with Daybreak on Trust Television as we return tomorrow with more exciting package. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.